start, please.
Hello, and good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending upon where you are in the world. This is the 30th iCANX meeting, and I'm Paul Weiss, coming to you from UCLA in Los Angeles, California. As there's so little news in the world today, we thought we would do something a little bit different and have a conversation about how the world has changed over the last few months and what lessons we might learn from the things we've been able to do, including these iCANX weekly talks to bring the world together and what we might carry forward after the pandemic is over. And so we've gathered scientists from around the world to talk about what it is we've been doing, where it is we'll be going. And it's my very great honor to moderate this panel. And we'll introduce all of our panelists shortly, but you can see them here. We have Samuel Chikeme from BITRE, who's the president of African Materials Research Society, Chinapati Jagadish, who many of you know from his previous iCANX talk, and at Australian National University, Sherry Kagan at the University of Pennsylvania, who works as one of our associate editors at ACS Nano, in addition to being in leadership positions at the Materials Research Society. AJ Sood, another of our editors at ACS Nano at the Indian Institute of Science, Qingquan Zhang from the Chinese Academy, and our amazing host and founder, Alice Shang at Beida. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of background for those of you who've joined us recently. We've had in the previous 29 Fridays, just an amazing series of speakers and panelists from around the world sharing with us their research, their ideas, the way that they put their groups together and so forth. We've had more than 8 million attendees during this time. And so thank you so much for joining us. You can see once we change platforms, we hit hundreds of thousands joining us every Friday, and it's made it worth spending the evening if you're in China and surroundings in Asia, or getting up very early if you're like me and us in America. So let me now bring out our panelists. I already had introduced myself, oh, I see, we'll go through each one, right? So I mentioned Samuel Chikeme already. He runs the African Materials Research Society, which has meetings every other year. I've been delighted to attend about half of those, and is at a relatively new scientific institute set up in Botswana, BITRE. Chinapati Jagadish. I'm going to ask each of our panelists to say something about their different roles, and so I won't spend too much time here. Sherry Kagan, AJ Sood, Qingquan Zhang, and Alice, who put these slides together, left herself off, but I think you all know her. So I'll now invite all our panelists to come on board and to unmute themselves. And I see everybody's cameras are on. We should be ready to go. So perhaps Samuel, let's have you unmute. Yeah, very good. And tell us something about BITRE and the African MRS, and we'll get to our activities, but for now, really just introducing yourself and your institutions.
So BITRE is the National Research Institute in Botswana. In terms of our operations, we focus more on solving the challenges that are there in the country, where we have a motto, from you to us for you. So the research that we do is focused on solving real life problems instead of only focusing on fundamental research, but we also seek to solve real problems that are there in the country. So our mandate is in line with the national priorities of the country. So in terms of African Materials Research Society, where B3 is linked to the African Materials Society is that we have a very good setup of material science at B3. So because of that, the government of Botswana saw it fit to host the Secretariat of the African Materials Research Society. So in terms of the African Materials Research Society, the main focus that we have is to ensure that we create an environment for the materials researchers in Africa, for them to come together, collaborate for the good of the development of the continent. So in summary, that's what I can say that we do at African MRS and at B3. So for me, in terms of my roles at the two institutions, at B3, I'm a senior researcher in nanomaterials, where we look at development of materials, specifically nanofiber membranes for prototype development. We're looking at water filtration. That's the team that I lead. And then in terms of MRS, I've got two roles currently since we're still trying to set up and grow as a society. I'm responsible for the secretariat, and then I'm also currently the president of the society. So from B3, we have the office that coordinates all the activities of MRS in Africa. So that's in summary my introduction about what I'm involved in.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And let's move to Jagadish.
Okay, thanks, Paul. And so my name is Jagadish, and I'm a distinguished professor of physics at the Australian National University in Canberra. And I also serve on the ACS Nano Editorial Advisory Board, which Paul has kindly invited me to serve on. And I'm also serving currently as editor-in-chief of the Applied Physics Reviews published by the American Institute of Physics Publishing. And I'm also serving currently as a past president of the IEEE Photonics Society and also Australian Material Research Society. So you can see that I'm quite heavily involved. And so like Paul, and then I used to travel quite a bit. But now, of course, we are grounded due to COVID, and we'll come back and talk about those things. And it's a pleasure and honor for me to participate in this event and meet many of my friends as well.
Terrific. And let's move to Professor Sherry Kagan.
Hi, well, I want to start by thanking both Alice and Paul for the opportunity to get to meet everybody virtually. So I'm at the University of Pennsylvania, which is a place where you have to embrace Benjamin Franklin, who is our founder. So that's perhaps one way to think about the university. I serve as, I'm in the engineering school. I have appointments in electrical and systems engineering, material science and engineering, and chemistry. But I'm also, as you might expect, a nanomaterials, nanodevice person in terms of my own personal research, where we go anywhere from fundamental understanding to thinking about their application. So I'll hopefully get to share with you today. I'm a director of a new NSF, our National Science Foundation Center. And so we have a new center on the Internet of Things for precision agriculture. So that's really thinking about how we get into applications. So I'll tell you a little bit about what it's like to launch a new center that started in September in the midst of the pandemic. I also serve as the Associate Dean for Research for the School of Engineering. Perhaps also not the right time to have a job like that when we are in a pandemic, but I'll also share a little bit about that. And as Paul introduced me, I also serve as an associate editor for ACS Nano, along with some of my colleagues here, which is a lot of fun. And I'm currently the Materials Research Society Vice President, and in that organization, I become president on January 1. So that's a little bit about me.
Terrific, thank you. And Professor A.J. Sood.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Paul, thank you, and thank you, Alice. So my name is Ajay Sood, and I work in Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, which is the southern part of our country. And I have been also associated with a neighboring institute called Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research. So my area of work has two streams. One is the quantum materials, which includes nanomaterials, of course, and other is the soft condensed matter. And in the roles outside my academic programs, I have been fortunate to be the president of two science academies in the country. One is called the Indian Academy of Sciences, which was founded by Sir C.V. Raman in 1934. And more recently, I just stepped down from presidentship of Indian National Science Academy with headquarter in New Delhi, which is responsible for all scientific collaborations with other countries. So it's a very formal position, which I stepped down beginning of this year. And fortunate to serve as an executive editor. Now, for today's topic, which came out, I also had some role as Secretary General of the World Academy of Sciences for 6 years, which really has 122 countries, and it has a science outreach program and many other things which connect different scientists from different countries. So it has been a learning experience for me, and I'll be happy to share some of these thoughts. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Dr. Qingquan Zhang. Oh, you're muted, I'm afraid.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to take part in this great event. First of all, allow me to briefly introduce myself. I'm from the Bureau of International Cooperation from the Chinese Academy of Sciences. I'm mainly responsible for the global science communication in the whole academy, to be brief, to communicate the Chinese Academy of Sciences to the rest and best of the world. I highly value this opportunity to communicate with all of you, and I hope this could be the chance for me to start and continue our communication and exchange of ideas in the future. And first of all, I would like to give you a very brief introduction to CAS and its international collaboration, especially the scenario after the pandemic. CAS is China's leading national scientific institution in natural resources and high-tech development and supreme scientific advisory body. We consider CAS as a unique scientific organization in the world. We use the phrase 3-in-1. Interestingly, the phrase has the same Chinese translation as the word Trinity, but of course, it has nothing to do with the religion. In terms of structure, CAS is an integrated institution that consists of a research and development system, a merit-based academic society like the US National Academy of Sciences, and higher education functions. We have more than 100 institutes across the country with research and development covering all fields of scientific and technology. We have more than 800 members and also a number of foreign members. CAS research power relies on more than 60,000 scientists and staff. And we also have 4 CAS-affiliated universities enrolling over 70,000 students. CAS attaches great importance to the international cooperation. We consider the international cooperation as an effective means to maximize our and global potential and resources to advance science and address global challenges. We welcome scientists in every field from all over the world to enter CAS and learn about our work and opportunities. And this is pretty much the introduction to the Chinese Academy of Sciences. And later I will share with you my view on the online conference. That's what I have to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let's complete the set with our host and founder, Professor Alice Yang.
Okay, yeah. So thank you everyone, and thanks for all this distinguished guests on the line. So yeah, I was Alice Dang from Peking University. Since April, I was initiated this iCANX talks online, invited the scientists, to deliver the latest results to the whole world. So this global event was very popular now, and Paul and me were coordinated with this, and yeah, we are very happy to see all these results come out. All these, wonderful events was continually affect all the whole world. Yeah, we hope today we can hear more from you. That's all. Thank you.
Very good. Yeah, maybe Alice, let's start with you about and ask you what made you think of doing this, and how did you make it so successful so quickly? You really got the word out in an amazing way.
Okay, thank you, Paul. That's a very interesting story. I think everyone knows that the COVID-19 was very serious. That time was in the spring. So after our spring festival, everyone was locked down at home. I was the same thing. But as a professor, as a very active professor, I'm really not used to this because I couldn't meet my students, my colleagues, and all my friends. I couldn't attend all these conferences. So I was locked in a very small space. So that time I was really sad. So one day in the evening, was in the rain, I was thinking, no, I couldn't allow this, forever. I have to do something. I have to, get to connect with the world. So that time I thinking, okay, why not to deliver online talks? So how to deliver online talks, how to get, more people can hear all these wonderful talks. Then I, discuss with my colleagues, my friends, and my technicians. So we developing some new technologies to try to, get this lively show. So that's step by step. I think, Paul, yeah, you know that you are the first one I was connected with. Because I sent an email to you. I say, okay, Paul, could you join me, to deliver lectures on iCANX talks? You say yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. That's all the story come out. And later on, we see that the latest, results delivered by the top scientists. So it's very attractive to all this audience, not only the professional audience, also someone public, because they love all this, very good science and technology was ongoing. So I think that's why it's getting popular and, getting very lovely to go around, to many different places. Okay, Paul, that's it.
Terrific, thank you. And let's go to Jagadish. You have so many different roles in different societies and your own strong research program, and you support research as well around the world. Can you tell us something about how life changed for you without the travel? We'd often intersect at conferences, whether it was in Brazil or Australia or somewhere else that we both happened to be. It was really one of the pleasures of life was getting to see you, wherever we were. So what's changed and how have you stayed connected? And yeah.
So thank you, Paul. And basically, it's of course a big change for me, for you. And then this year, I have not traveled to anywhere except to San Francisco in February, and just before this, just initial start stages of COVID. And so as I used to spend about half of my time outside Australia, attending conferences, giving talks, and attending various meetings, and also to visit collaborators and then work with collaborators very closely, and particularly interacting with students and postdoctoral fellows in various collaborators groups or so. I've had the pleasure of working with colleagues from 30 plus countries, and including, of course, India, China, US, UK, and various parts of Japan and various parts of the world. And so trying to really do all these things sitting from home has been a real challenge. And so let me come to the country first, Australia. Australia has been impacted this year heavily due to the bushfires started in the beginning of the year. Entire country has been impacted. The first 2 months or so, we were not able to work with all the smoke, and then had to stay at home and all these things. And then we thought that we are getting back to the university, and then the COVID started. And then again, we had to go back and then work from home. The first change has been that my wife has not seen me for more than 2 weeks or 3 weeks for the last 30 years or so since we were married. And so we had to,
how that's going.
So in fact, funny enough, we had to make adjustments for each other because of the fact that we are not used to seeing each other for 24 hours a day and try to understand each other's idiosyncrasies and all these things sort of thing. Anyway, that's the first starting point. So the second thing is, of course, most of the interactions have been through via Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google Meet or WebEx and things like that sort of thing. In terms of professional societies, they have been impacted hugely. For example, conferences had to be postponed or conferences had to be canceled. And so the exhibits had to be canceled, and then society had to pay lots of money to the venues and then organizers and a range of things. And it really had a huge impact on the societies. And we've gone for virtual. And the challenge is that, how do you really, even the virtual conferences cost you money. How to really be able to really recover those costs and then be able to also support the community. When the societies are making money from the conferences or publications, they're also putting that money back into the community in terms of student scholarships or awards and other various programs, mentoring programs and all these things. So it's a very challenging time for professional societies, how to manage these times of, the serving the community, and also providing the platforms for scientific community to interact with each other and develop the collaborations and links and all things. So that's been a real challenge. For example, we can have conferences virtually, but people are not that keen on paying for these virtual conferences. But then, of course, somebody has to really run these conferences, and that means that it costs money in terms of managing all these things. So that's a challenge which we need to come up across as a community and then see what mechanisms we can come up with so that we can be able to still serve the community and provide platforms for people to interact and exchange ideas and develop collaborations and things like that. So in terms of Australia, as I mentioned to you, because of COVID, because Australian universities have been significantly impacted due to COVID because of the fact that universities are heavily reliant on international students. And so, of course, because of the COVID, international students could not come because our semester starts in February or so. And many colleagues, many students from, for example, from China could not come, and other countries as well. So that had a huge impact in terms of the revenues of the university. And in fact, most of the universities have been firing people. My own university is a target of about getting rid of about 450 people, for example, both academic staff as well as professional staff. And they're offering voluntary redundancies and packages and all these things. So that creates quite a different dynamic, with a limited number of people, but still you need to do teaching and you need to do research and all these things. And this is not just my university. Every university in Australia has been impacted by COVID. And those are the challenges for the academic community. And of course, many students could not come and join us for doing PhD, for example, because of the fact that the visa issues and also the restrictions and other things. And then people stayed back in their own countries and they're doing PhDs in their own countries. So that also creates lots of problems because particularly if you're doing experimental research, you cannot really do too much in the virtual scene, though we can probably interact and then read some literature and maybe ask them to do some simulations. You cannot do experiments being in, sitting at home. So that's a challenge for the university sector. How do we be able to survive and come out of this one? And all the universities in Australia are now looking at how to survive and then also how to develop programs where you can really be able to provide virtual classes and other things. But then also students are not that keen on paying huge sums of money as a fee when, university is not really providing all the atmosphere or the facilities and other things. So that's a challenge for the university sector as well. So in terms of research, and of course, this year it so happened that, for about 6-7 months, we could not do much research except doing some data analysis or writing papers or so. But now only in July, August onwards, we started going back. And so it's we started doing some research, but also because of the restrictions of not being able to have many people in one lab, and also the research which we're able to do also is having an impact as well. For example, a particular machine is down and the equipment, the things which need to come from overseas also have been restricted and it's delaying things and other things as well. So it's having a huge impact on research. And in terms of interactions, mainly through Zoom and other means. And then of course, as like today, for all these midnight meetings, and sometimes I'm having meetings at 2 a.m. or so, then you got up at 4 a.m. And so then sometimes I was starting my meetings. In fact, last 2 Fridays, we had this Rising Stars of Light competition, which has been organized by Alice and then Light Science Applications. And we were starting at 11 p.m. And then, I was finishing at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. So that also had an impact on the next day, your ability to work and other things as well. So it's a very interesting time for us. But we all have to really learn and adopt ourselves and then see how can we still continue to interact as a global community, because science is global. And then it's important we really learn from each other and then interact with each other and explore new ideas and work together. That's an important. In terms of positives, and then so now I'm able to give talks every week, 2-3 continents. In fact, earlier we had to travel and then you have to worry about jet lag and all these things. But now, means I'm giving talks, India, China, or Kenya, and UK or US, and means Bangladesh or any part of the world. And means that's a sort of course, people learned this one. So now they're asking you. In the old days, they used to say they invite you, and then you used to say that sorry, I cannot come because I already made a commitment. Now that excuse no longer works anymore. So that means I'm able to give more talks and other things, which has been good as well from that point of view. So it's good. That's some positives in terms of not much travel. So that means also less impact on the greenhouse gas emissions and carbon footprint, which we have been generating, for example, so people like you and me, Paul, for example. And also no jet lag, though my students are saying that because of the fact that having these meetings till 2 a.m. or so, they're saying that you're having jet lag without traveling. So anyway,
yes.
that's been sort of the experience for me, sort of thing. But still, it's important for us to stay focused and stay excited about science and working together as a community.
I think that the point about jet lag is something we kind of traded, right? Normally we might have flown to Beijing, hopped off a plane, grabbed a shower and an espresso and given a talk or gone to a meeting. And instead now we just kind of get out of bed a few hours early and in our own home. The same. And what about the journal? The journal.
So the journal point of view, it's thank you. That's a journal point of view. I think journal is doing okay because of the fact that a lot of people could not do experiments and other things, and people have been writing a lot of papers and other things, and they have been submitting them. And the only thing is that editorial meetings, and we had to have it virtually because we used to meet annually and then interact with each other, and so that did not happen. And in fact, funny enough. And when we finished that meeting and then we were discussing about when the next meeting is going to be, some of our international colleagues said that, why you want to have a physical meeting? Why don't we have virtual meetings? We're able to spend 2 or 3 hours. And so that way for one-day meeting, we don't have to travel all day from Oxford or Australia and other parts of the world. So that's it's very interesting that people seems to be getting used to these virtual meetings. And now sometimes they're preferring to have virtual meetings as well. So that's a very interesting experience and change in thinking as well. Of course, editorial staff have been working from home. It's also been a challenge for the staff as well, sort of, So, but authors, at least we haven't seen any reduction in terms of submissions yet, at least. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, likewise for us. Actually, we have our monthly call coming up in about an hour after after the iCANX ends. And since the pandemic, we've had more editors join in than when it was just simply a phone call. Now we all, kind of get to see each other on Zoom and have a little more, a little more in the way of conversations as a result. We'll come back to the journals in a bit. Let's go to Samuel. Can you tell us something about the impact on Vitri and the African MRS and your other activities?
Yeah, so I think what I can say is that from where I stand from the African MRS, it has been both, I think, positive and negative in the sense that I think the main challenge that we've had is taking out the face-to-face interactions, the physical interaction of people. Because as you may understand that as African MRS, our main activity has been organizing the conference every 2 years, where people will come together from all over the world. So there's a way in which when you interact, you talk about science, but then also there's an aspect of the tourism where people get to interact and get a feel of the environment and bond and make friends. And that helps to ensure that people can have more productive scientific discussions. So that has been taken out with this challenge that we have of the travel restrictions, the social distancing, and also that's one thing that I can say that is a bit of a challenge in terms of making sure that we maximize the interaction that people would have. But then if you look at it from a positive point of view, what we've seen is that I think generally in Africa, from the university setup and maybe from different institutions that are focused on scientific aspects, generally I think there's been a lack of the use of maybe, should I say, electronic media in terms of communication. So you find that I think when we were first hit by COVID-19, some universities could not operate because there was no way of doing online lectures. But then it was sort of like wake-up call for some of these institutions where they realized that they've sort of been lagging behind in terms of having some of these systems in place. So it sort of helped to put people under pressure to pull up their socks and have some of these systems in place. So what that has done is that in a way it has sort of helped to improve the communication. Both for us from the MRS point of view, something that we've been trying to do is to ensure that our members, they get a chance to visit, probably maybe going to different countries or live in the continent. So because of the challenge of movements, we've been forced to aggressively establish relationships probably with other material societies so that our members can also engage. Like now we have MRS Singapore, where I think we're going to have about 10 of our early career researchers that are going to get a chance of presenting some of their work. It's something that we've never done before. Because in the past, because we didn't really have these virtual meetings, the focus has always been on trying to get funds to travel, which has always been a challenge. But now, all you just need to do is just to get good internet connectivity, and then you can be able to participate in a meeting. So in a way, I think if you look at it from a positive point of view, the limitation of traveling has actually helped to make sure that there are more interactions that our members can actually have with people from all over the world. So I think the challenge of funding that has always been there in terms of travel, it has sort of been taken out. So it has somehow contributed positively. But then looking at the aspect of where, because what we have is that in terms of where we try to promote collaboration, we have people that can visit labs from different parts of Africa, and also even traveling maybe to Europe, to Asia, to the US. So that has been taken out because you find that you want to be able to perform the experiments. It's difficult to be able to do an experiment online, like on Zoom. So what it means now is that going forward, ways in which you can be able to look at how that can be possible. How can you go about doing synthesis from Africa? You want to do that in a lab, maybe in California. So those are some of the challenges that are there that we're actually experiencing because of the travel restrictions that we have. And then some of the things that we're also trying to do is that we try to organize with companies to facilitate some hands-on workshops where we can get maybe students from different parts of the regions of Africa. Maybe they can come to South Africa or Botswana, where they can actually engage in using the instruments. So you find that, yes, that can be done online, but then for proper understanding of scientific concepts, for proper interaction with some of this equipment, you need to be there physically. So these things have been taken out. So that has become a challenge in terms of how we can be able to progress. So I think in a way, as much as going online has helped to communicate effectively and maybe reach out to the whole world in a more effective way, the aspect of the physical interaction is still a challenge that we have that still needs to be addressed, so at least we can be able to have an effective way of interacting. So I think in summary, that's what I can say in terms of where we stand from the scientific communication point of view. And then I think that I can also bring out some positives that have also come out. It has somehow sort of forced people to be more innovative. For example, like if I look at our country as Botswana, in terms of the way it is from the geography point of view, in terms of the area, Botswana is almost the same area in terms of length as Kenya, but then our population is about 20 times smaller. So this is mainly because I think about 25% of the country is predominantly semi-arid, which is more of a desert. So because of that now, in terms of produce, agricultural produce, it has not really been that good over the past couple of years. So what that sort of did was that it somehow sort of forced people within the country to start thinking more on how we can be able to come up with ways of maybe looking at producing more locally, so we don't have to depend on maybe importing from South Africa or any other country. So in a way, that is sort of like been a positive development, because it has sort of put pressure on people locally to be more creative in terms of developing ways of self-sustenance within the country. So I think in terms of the role that we have as Bitri, we've also been engaged in different activities where we've been looking at as an institution how can we contribute positively towards the pandemic that we've been having. So I think in summary, that's what I can say, that yes, negatively, people cannot interact physically, but then on the positive note, I think there's a wider network that people can be able to reach out to. Thank you.
And I want to also take this opportunity for you to tell us when and where the next two meetings are. We have a very big audience, and maybe you could just say a little bit about how the conferences run, who attends, and then when and where to expect the next two, which I believe are now scheduled.
So normally we have our conferences every 2 years around the second week of December. So the next one is going to be in Dakar, Senegal. So what we're going to do is that we don't know yet if it's going to be 100% virtual or it's going to be 50% virtual and physical, but our hope is that by then it will be 100% physical, so less people can maximize interaction. So typically what we do is that we have the first 2 days of pre-conference workshops. So typically we run workshops where we look at the specific areas, like maybe if it's nanomaterials, if it's nanomaterials for energy, things like materials for health, just to capture the graduate students and the early career researchers over 2 days. So we normally do that for the first 2 days, and then after that we then have the 4 days for the main conference. So that's going to be in Dakar, Senegal. And then in terms of the themes that we have for this year, we're going to have, I think, about 7 conference themes, where we are going to look at, I think there are global things that we cater for, not only for Africa, but then we also look at globally some of the material challenges that we have. So typically we target at least getting all the 5 regions of Africa attending. And what we've observed over the past couple of conferences is that there is a significant percentage of participation from the Americans. And then we also have mostly from Africa. There's also Australia, Asia. It has not been as much as what we've been getting from America and in Africa. Well, if you look at the history of how society was formed, that's maybe where you can understand, because it came up as a result of a US-Africa collaboration. So because of that, in a way, it has always been that strong relationship. So that's why it has mostly been the involvement of the Americans and the Africans. But it's open to the whole world. Because like now, we've had some interaction that resulted in some of our students from Africa going to Brazil to do half of their PhD work in Brazil and part of their work in Africa. So it has actually helped. Even like now, we've had some students going to Singapore and other countries. So it's an international conference. It's not only for Africa. And then the next one that we're going to have, we've already, this time around, we decided to change and make sure that we plan 4 years ahead of time, unlike what we were doing in the past, where we do 2 years ahead of time. So we've already decided that 2023 is going to be in Kigali, Rwanda. But we haven't finalized yet in terms of the theme. But what I can tell you about Rwanda is that it's an exciting country in the sense that there are policies in place where the leadership of the country is very supportive of the material science initiative that we are trying to explore. As it stands, I think I can say that Rwanda it can be regarded as the cleanest city in Africa. They have some policies in place that are very supportive of what we're trying to do, but they are behind in terms of material science. So one of the reasons why we want to go to Rwanda, we wanted to make sure that we also contribute towards the growth of material science. So I think that's what we have in terms of what's coming up over the next two conferences.
Thank you so much. Yes. Yeah, my observation has been that there's coverage of all of the continent of scientists, but also we get to meet students from the region often are drawn into whatever, wherever the location is. And they're students and others, young scientists, we wouldn't have an opportunity to meet otherwise. This is probably a good segue into Sherry Kagan, who's at University of Pennsylvania and has prominent roles in Materials Research Society. And I'll point out that one of her predecessors as MRS president joined us at the African MRS meeting in Zimbabwe. And so maybe we can lure her to Senegal next year. Sorry to put you on the spot, but they are terrific meetings. The scientific level is very high, and the opportunity to reach out to internationally engaged scientists from around the world, the African diaspora, and the African scientific community is really special. So, Sherry, tell us about you mentioned these many roles you have, your new center,
Sure.
The MRS, the university leadership, and how Jagadish mentioned this difficult time for societies, in particular, and I think many societies are just hoping to get through and come out on the other side. But maybe you have some insight from the MRS there too. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks. So I think the one thing I take away in listening to my colleagues Jagadish and Samuel is just the similarity, actually, that many similarities that we all see that are impacting our work at, let's say, our home institutions or in our regions, as well as we look outside more globally for our scientific interaction. And so I feel like I could have, in many cases, almost said something very similar, with a slightly different timeline, right? Just because, of the way that, for example, the virus progressed around the world and how it impacted us. And so, as I look at it, I think about, so one of my roles as Associate Dean for Research is the research enterprise. And so, as I think many of, you've already thought about or heard in your own institutions, of course, it was a sort of, we went from an example where we I was actually out of town and traveling at a workshop and came back to effectively plan how we were going to, I will say, somewhere between safeguard to, shut down our labs, and that was in the middle of March. And as soon as we did that, we had, how do you keep the essential activities going? How do you maintain the safety of labs with chemicals, the viability of labs with animals in them? And so it was quite the, I think there's one thing that you learn about is one is about planning, right? We now have, we now know what we can do. If I think about the positive sides of thinking about, a community that comes together, I think everything was, we all worked in a way where we thought about interacting with each other in a very outward way, in our universities, outside of our universities, globally. I think when that first happened, I think we suddenly all, all of our attention and bandwidth kind of turned inward, right? To think about how do we, maintain the activities that we need to for, our research, for teaching. And so there was, right, this, sudden need to do that. And, as we did that, we, and had to think about our labs and, think about our students and what they were doing. I think, by the way, positively, I think, boy, a lot of my students learned some new tools. Some of those were computational. That's actually yielding something. So I'm not sure I have half a glass of coffee yet left, but I'm very, I'm very positive. So I like to think about the opportunities that we learned from. I think that, as soon as we had to close the labs, we thought about how we were going to open up the labs. And so we had, the first thing after we got that done, the first thing we did was to have a task force to think about how we were going to reopen. And I think that perhaps in listening to some of our colleagues, perhaps we were closed a little bit for a shorter time, although it felt like a long time for something like 3 months. And then we really came back. And at this stage, by the way, I think that, we keep social distancing, and we've had very good outcomes in terms of, while, obviously the virus is around, that there's not transmission in the workplace. And so that's been, I think, a very good story for us, thinking about how do you navigate through something that's a difficult time. But I think at this stage, I think most of our labs are actually back in a way where students can sort of fully operate in a standpoint of how much time they can get in the lab. And I think the challenge is, I appreciate that, Samuel's comments too, some of the things that become difficult are the ones where research gets impacted by travel, right? That aside from our exchange of communication through conferences, it means that we are not traveling internationally to carry out research together. And even within the country, it's very difficult to travel to things like national labs to be able to do some of the experiments, even if we had, time on some of those instruments or in some of those facilities. And so I think, some of those activities are a little bit difficult. I have to spend time approving exceptional exceptions to the exceptions to the exceptions. And I think one of the other things is, if I think about, boy, there are a lot of platforms that are coming along in a virtual sense for us to use. Obviously, we're using Zoom, and I think we all spend a lot of time on Zoom, finding a way for us to figure out how we keep our attention spans for many hours on these things. But there are lots of tools that I think, that I think about, well, for good or bad, I've learned how to use. And some of those I'll think, there's Slack, if I make another Google form, I'm gonna, anyway, there are all sorts of tools. But I think that we've learned, I think about the positive sides of the ones that will keep with us and how they'll evolve to allow us to do some activities, to maintain connections, to, for people to, get people's attention span. One of the things that I think we also saw is, how do you communicate, and that was one thing, is people do not like to read long emails. So, you feel like you have to give them all the information. They want all the information, but they don't want to read all the information. And, we have town halls, and people will come to the town halls. And that's good. There are some really good things, right? So people feel, that we're doing the right kinds of activities. But you wonder, it's amazing, town halls, FAQs, websites, all sorts of things. And yet I look at it and I think that still, what do people really want? They want to reach out and have you answer their question. And so maybe we'll think about, personalized series or some kind of, that for the future of what the opportunities are in technology. But, in a world that's changing, where we're all electronically accessible, they want to reach out to us. And that's one of the things I think we found. Even my colleagues, I'm like, I'm sure I've answered that 10 times, right? And yet they'd rather send me an email and have me answer it again. So I think there are some things that are, I think we learn about the way that we're starting to work within the framework of having these tools. And I think seeing how those evolve and how we really make them of utility going forward, I think is one that's is very important. I think that maybe I'll just switch gears from managing sort of what became certainly internally, right? We all had our sort of internal, I don't know if crisis is the right word, but sudden, burst of work, to starting to think about things outside and beyond just our internal. So I'll say that one of the other things that happened for me this past year was that we were awarded one of the National Science Foundation's engineering research centers, and I'm the director of that center. And it, in some sense, you thought, boy, we worked for years to actually, receive this award, and now we launched the center in September, and the part that's, I'll look at the positive sides of that is that, having all of these tools when you have a multi-institutional center has been something that actually I think has made it easier. Everybody who's been more comfortable to say, look, we're going to have these meetings via Zoom. We're going to have, we've launched educational activities to sort of co-educate a very interdisciplinary group, because it's a center that's on it's on looking at technology, IoT, or Internet of Things, but for agriculture. And so if you think about the sort of more, as we look here, bringing together very different disciplines, the opportunity to use it as a platform for education. And so we have weekly, sort of 1 hour but short pieces where we've learned to think about how to communicate information to each other, but also that gave us the opportunity where people feel very comfortable to participate in a virtual setting to learn, to learn from each other. And so I think about the positives of that opportunity that's come with that sense of people feeling, comfortable to learn via Zoom, for people to learn to communicate and share and various different formats. So I think there are some positives to think about.
I think the uptake in those kind of things is really grown very substantially. We get 5 times the attendance
That's right.
at a seminar, compared to normal. And iCANX is a great example of that, of so many people tuning in when there's an opportunity, and especially starting something new. Like you said, it's so hard to stand up a center. On the other hand, people are available, right? And they will,
That's right.
They will join in to something interesting.
Yeah, so I thought maybe I would transition this to thinking about one of the examples from the Materials Research Society that I had the opportunity to participate in. And so, in fact, it was last week, which was one of the webinars. And I think one of the other pieces, it reaches to Samuel's comment actually about getting people engaged. And one of the formats so it was a webinar that was connected to a publication in the MRS Bulletin. So it gave people first an opportunity to see the bulletin, but also to effectively meet the authors and to meet the different topics that were there. And, we all enjoy our colleagues and having those interactions, but it was a fabulous platform for students. So I looked at, because you can see who is attending, right? And so we had very good attendance. But in addition, while I recognize many of the names of our colleagues that we work with, it had a very good representation from all over the world of students. And sometimes when you're at a big meeting, students don't always ask questions. Frankly, in the classroom, they don't always ask questions. But it was a nice platform where that we found that students really kept the questions going, actually for quite some time, and but feeling more comfortable actually in using effectively what was like a chat box, and that these would get streamed out and people would answer their questions. And so I look at the positives of thinking about, we'll all look forward to coming back to our big meetings where we get to interact and talk with each other and share our science and frankly socialize with each other. But I think that some of these virtual technologies, electronic technologies, are an opportunity for the future, where there are other things in between, where I appreciated Jagdish's comment that you could get your work done at home and participate in a meeting and balance something that allows you, that's frankly is also very effective, right, and efficient in time. But I think about the opportunity for us to engage others who might not be able to travel to a meeting, or to, because of the cost, the distance, the time, but also a way that, we get people more involved in actually feeling that they have a voice too and can ask their questions and be involved. And so I really enjoyed and appreciated in particular in looking at the questions that came through something like a webinar where, students were really involved in asking those questions. In fact, none of our colleagues asked, only students asked questions throughout the entire time.
Yeah, one of my colleagues, Clarissa, who runs quantum biology colloquium series, and they are the postdocs or the hosts, and the trainees ask the first several questions, and we reserve an hour for discussion because they go that long every time we have a talk. That's been really, really terrific thing to see, which actually maybe this is a good time to bring this up. And one of the things that Alice and I have worried about, and that we've also discussed within the journal, is that what about young scientists starting their careers and their labs? How do we connect them in normally when we were going to meetings, we would be searching them out, and we'd ask our colleagues when we visited universities or research institutes, hey, who do you have who's new, who and exciting, who we should know. So we started the ACS Nano Rising Star Lecture Series as a way to help identify these young scientists, and also to showcase them and their work to the world. But do you have some strategy within Penn and your many academic progeny and your center and the MRS where we don't miss opportunities to connect in to the folks starting their careers?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. It's probably one of the things that, we worry about a lot, right? Which is the university has, at Penn, has done a lot to try and be supportive of, in fact, providing additional financial support. This has gone from students and so I was like, wow, I didn't get that. But so our salaries were frozen, but the students did better. But I think that there's support and there are internal programs to help support young faculty, especially in concerns about trying to balance in a virtual world, right? Home also got more complicated, especially for that, particularly for young faculty or some postdocs. So there are opportunities there to support them to change the time clock, for example, of provide flexibility in the time clock through the sort of promotion process. And those are all good, right? To really be able to reach out. I think the one part that it doesn't address is this question of, well, how do you still get the word out? How do you get to share your science? And I think that's an opportunity where, right, we're still having sort of virtual seminars, but I think that there's still a real opportunity and an importance for us to think about as a community. So I really appreciate the Rising Stars example from ACS Nano. But I think that there's more as a community that we need to do. That's really a missing link for people to really establish themselves, and frankly, to missing the social part of making connections with others that would happen naturally in an in-person setting is something that I think it just got harder. And I think that I suspect globally that we, could think about more avenues to be able to support and make those connections to help our sort of the young, the more junior scientists and faculty in our communities. So I think that's still a one where there's work to do.
And one of the things we haven't talked about yet, and maybe we can come back to it or at least note it, is there's a tremendous burden on scientists who have children with them at home. And just, within our 30 or so editors, it's clear in, when we assign manuscripts and, timing and everything else has changed very dramatically. I can tell, who has small children at home, who has other children at home. There's been this, very quick shift among, a cohort of editors who are really phenomenally productive and great at multitasking. But there's a strain on the system that, is clear at that level. And we know that crosses over into, all aspects of life and work and, what one is able to do. And so, I don't think we'll come up with an answer, but I think it's worth, making sure that everybody knows that we understand that that's the situation. And like many other things, we hope to pass this time successfully.
Even for our center that we just launched, we actually sent a survey to all the faculty and students and postdocs participating to actually understand what their challenges were with childcare at home, so that they would be able to participate in the meetings that we were having. And so we did a survey. We have not a lot of them, but we were looking at, should we have programs where we would have, other students run something virtually to help to engage, children, for example, during the process of having, so that the parents had, felt that they could engage in the meeting.
And thank you so much. Let's move to AJ. You have so many different roles, and you're so connected around India and the world. Can you tell us something about what life has been like for you and at your institute and these different academies where you're so engaged?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Paul. So my experience resonates with lot of things what have been said by the previous speakers. So we have been closed down since March 16th, and we opened up in first week of August. And now roughly the institute is limping back to normal, but with all the possible restrictions so that not many people are in the lab and so on. So it has been quite a unusual time for us. And as an experimentalist, you can well imagine what it means, because to restart our femtosecond lasers, it took us a month, because things were, air conditioning, humidity, everything had gone haywire, and it took us a while. But nevertheless, now we are limping back. So in this time, actually, I have realized that the science communication actually has increased in this period, because there have been a lot of virtual meetings, which is one, as somebody said, it's a positive side of it. And in that sense, I would say that it has been very engaging, sometimes actually over engaging, because everyone thinks that you can give a talk, but you realize that it also needs background work. So that has kept many of us busy. And what I have also been busy with, I have been involved with the nano mission of Department of Science and Technology in India. And we launched a special call for COVID related projects, actually. And we got a very heavy response, rather. And we had to make selection of the projects at a very fast level so that the things remain relevant. So that took us quite a effort, but it was also a very learning experience, how people have really got reoriented and proposed some very nice things, and already they are in advanced stage of delivery and so on. So it was a new experience for me to learn, because I was chairing that committee, and also many interactions with the we have an advisory council to the Prime Minister of India, so I am a member of that. So under that also we had a couple of meetings. The last meeting was very interesting, because it was discussing all the COVID related vaccine issues and so on. So I'm not an expert in that, but a lot of issues like waste management related to COVID thing is a huge issue in a country like India, and I'm sure it is a huge issue all over the world. What do you do with these PPEs, which are getting piled up in tons and huge amount? So we discussed many possibilities and identified some action plans, which probably will get done. What I'm saying is, it is something new role which we had not done before. So that way, it was a learning experience for me. In terms of lab, as I said, things are limping back, but we took this time to look at things which I had not finished for months and years, some of the manuscripts. So in some sense, students were happy that a lot of it got, put together, but it will take us a while to get full stream on in some time. So it has been a positive experience in some ways, but also this interaction personally, I definitely miss it. For me, it's very much important, and science is fun, because we interact with people. So for this is okay as a stopgap for me for 9 months to 1 year, but we have to see how to get back. So, so as I said, in terms of other meetings like academy meetings and so on, everything is now online, and we had very good participation actually in many of these talks. So as I said, and the talks which I have given, for example, recently one public talk, I had questions sent from people whom I would have never expected in my life, way far away and so on. So I was giving a talk on science without borders. So I was covering different aspects of our work. And it was quite interesting that somebody in Punjab uh, is asking me a question which I would have never got from a student if it was not online. So in some sense, these are all pleasant experiences for me. And as I said, we have now learned a new way of doing it. So my hope is that when we recover from this, we will have a mixed of these two. We will have a lot of things online because we have all realized that a lot of our travel was redundant. We could have done away with. So that part we are good to be online, but there are many other things where we would like to have a personal interaction, presence of others and so on. So I think it will be a mixed bag in future. That's my sense, and that would be pretty healthy. And personally, I would also say that last 6 months, actually 7 months now, I have taken this opportunity also to learn new things. Two things I have learned, which was not happening. So we recently got interested about a year back in machine learning because this is the flavor of the day. If you are not doing, you think you are illiterate. So I thought, okay, so we learned supervised machine learning, and we had a recent paper in Nature Physics on glasses using supervised machine learning. So that was a good point. But now, in the last few months, trying to learn what is called deep learning using neural networks. Now, I would have never done that if it was not for my quarantined at home, essentially, because it gives you that opportunity to, uh, read and interact online and so on. So, in some sense, you can say these positives in the which otherwise I would probably take much longer. So, as I said, it is a very interesting experience, and I hope we will learn from it to have a mix of both the things and see in future what happens. Thank you so much for having me, and it has been a fun listening to all the speakers. And anyway, in 1 hour we'll be meeting on the other platform. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Actually, speaking of the journal, one thing we never saw was a decrease in the number of submissions. In fact, I read, and as many of you know, I read and rate all the manuscripts that are submitted, and I would say the quality went up during this time. And I'm sure we can attribute it to people having more time to put in to their work, or maybe, as you say, they had backlogs of something that they really wanted to get out, but couldn't sit down and devote the attention it needed. But we did see a change for the positive in the submissions, and that has been just tremendously interesting, and I would have to say unexpected, that the quality and has gone up, and there hasn't been a slowdown. One of the things that we do is, if something is an essential, and this is true of all the ACS journals, if a referee's comment request for more experiments isn't essential to the conclusions of the work, then we don't ask for the authors to do that. But that really hasn't stood in the way of people continuing their work and manuscripts. And in our own case, sometimes what we've done is scrolled through our collaborators or potential collaborators and said, whose labs are open? And then, try to work through some of the things that we we need to understand to move our research forward in something we might have done at UCLA or might have done, in our collaborators lab in Prague, but instead, moved over to Shanghai to a former postdocs lab at Tongji, where they were up and running when we weren't, and so it's changed our research patterns as well.
Yeah, but only thing, Paul, I will just add that unfortunately, this moment of inertia effect cannot be for too long. Actually, what happened is that we had uninterrupted life for 40 years. And we had a lot of things, connections, results, and all those things. But for the, as you mentioned in the beginning, and as Cherry said, for the young people, actually, young faculty, it has been a huge, huge challenge.
Yeah.
And actually, for senior researchers like us, we could take it in our stride because it's like the inertia effect. But for other people, it has not been that good. So it is, I mean, I don't want to belittle their, agony. I just thought that some of us have been lucky, but there is a sizable number which is not that lucky.
I agree, and that's where I think we also want to look for opportunities to see where we might work together and help as people, get their labs started. As Jagadish mentioned, many institutions are shedding employees, and that means there are also fewer opportunities for those who are coming out of their training. And so hopefully we can figure out how to, carry forward this community. One thing we've seen also at the entry level, some first-year grad students, it's hard to get in the lab and get trained when there's limited occupancy and social distancing. And so we've seen some deferrals, but then tried to, for the people who are able to join us now, we've tried to figure out how to manage that. And I think that's an ongoing process that hopefully, will loosen up as we get a handle on the pandemic.
Very right.
So Paul, Paul, one thing which we need to really watch out is that the mental health and well-being of our young people, particularly.
Yes.
Because as human beings, our mental health is very much dependent on our social interactions. When people are not able to go anywhere, particularly if you're a student and you're in a small room and sometimes in a shared house and all these things, not being able to go anywhere, not be able to interact with anybody, it's really has got a huge impact. And that's something which we need to watch out and then make sure that, we, make sure that they get the help needed in order to be able to really get over this period. And otherwise, we may get in, without realizing it, we may really see that some of the young people are really suffering. We're not really appreciating and then realizing it and not providing the right kind of help or mentoring and other things sort of thing. It's very important to make sure that their well-being has been looked after.
I completely agree that the stress on graduate students and postdocs, for example, under normal circumstances, is already very high, and we see when we look, and it's important to look, mental health issues arising, and now with all this extra stress and isolation and fear of what's to come, we definitely see significant significant mental health issues that it's important as mentors and friends and advisors and collaborators to reach out and connect and to do everything that we possibly can. But thank you for bringing that up. I think that's a really important part of what we're going through now, and will continue, for at the very least some months.
Thank you.
Let's move to Qingquan. Can you tell us something about how the Chinese Academy, in its various forums, the research institutions, the collaborations, the universities, how has the Chinese Academy been dealing with the current situation, and what are the challenges and outlook for moving forward?
Okay, thank you. I'm quite enjoy so far uh, the uh, the positive attitude towards this situation. Actually, the pandemic has caused the enormous negative impact on CAS international collaboration. I want to share with you a few numbers. Before the pandemic, CAS invites more than 20,000 visitors each year from around the world. And we also send almost the same volume with the visitors from CAS to the rest of the world. However, after the pandemic, the exchange volume of inbound and outbound has decreased to almost nothing. And most of the conferences planned for 2020 has been canceled and postponed. Actually, CAS has struggled for quite a long time to orient itself in these new circumstances. Like most of the other institutions around the world, CAS has been increasingly rely on the online conference as the most convenient and secured way to keep scientists connected and to keep our in the loop. Uh, if we can't go out and they can't get in the online, the only way at hand, right? And the problem is that how we can make full use of it to maximize the value of international exchange and international cooperation. We all know that conference is more than just talks. It's about the personal interactions. It's about the social events, poster presentations, about the networking, and also the future career. All of these advantages of conference are very hard to replace online. I think, and I think this is the expense we have to pay by introducing this new way of communication in this new situation. What can we do so far to think is to think differently the role international conference or even science has been playing in the past. We all know that science should serve all mankind, and the public understanding of science has been playing an increasing important role to fulfill the mission of science. And I think now we have the chance to communicate science to an even broader audience by using this new online technology, I think, which is great. And the problem is that we need to do the online conference in a way more audience is interested, attracted, and benefited. And I think we should lower the difficulty of understanding of the academic outcome or achievements, and we should facilitate the communication among scientists, media, and ordinary people. And we also should produce more good products. I mean, uh, uh, the communication products before or after the meeting to promote the public understanding of science. We also should build up the capacity of the scientists to sell their work. And of course, we can't do it in a way to jeopardize the seriousness of science, but rather we should do it in a more rewarding and sustainable fashion. And indeed, there are still more to learn about the online or virtual meeting, but I'm quite confident with the that with the scientists and researchers are more getting more used to the online communication. This new way of communication will have very great influence on our next generation of scientists and researchers.
Very good. And yeah, this is it's such a big set of institutes that you have. The impact must just be enormous.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our host, who actually Qing Guan. Maybe if there is a science communication award of the Chinese Academy, let me be possibly the first to nominate Alice for it.
Of course.
Yeah, we endorse that, Paul. We endorse that. Absolutely. She deserves it very much.
Okay. Alice,
Thank you very much.
you've been, had such success with these iCANX lectures, but maybe first tell us a little bit about your laboratory and what you see around you at Peking University, and what gave you the idea to to put these together, and how did you connect so many people so quickly?
Okay, that's really great. Yeah, I appreciate, Chen Translate all these things. Yeah, for the online conference, they can help. And there is this difficulty time, and we need to develop some new things, to get more functions, get people feelings, more close connections on this virtual, universe. So yeah, what we did, for iCANX, I think that's kind of very interesting story, because I was kind of doing hardware, developing all the sensors or devices. I was not good at software, but I have a partner. Yeah, he's very good at design, software. So we collaborate each other. Yeah, we say that we want to, have some kind of virtual reality, meeting room. Yeah, based on all these kind of very popular like Zoom or Tencent the meeting, virtual meeting system. So then we collaborate each other. We got some hardware set up. We got software developed, then merged together, to do something like virtual reality. Yeah. So for my, experience in last half a year, so we try this. It's getting better and better. Yeah, the students really learn a lot from this, kind of new setup, because they listen to a lot of new talk. That also they challenging, themselves to do something new. Yeah, to learn something new, because I try to push. I say that you see, yeah, we met in this COVID-19. We need to solve the problem. We look at from the positive, side is we should push ourselves to do something new. Yeah, so we made it. Then now, yeah, no excuse. You can then many things in your dream, So that's kind of things we are doing now. Yeah, I also keep on going in this way. Yeah, I try my best to make something new.
And you're, for those who don't know you personally, you're such a social person. How do you manage during this time?
Okay, God, yeah. So this morning, actually, I say one word. So what we are going to do on iCANX? I try to, make science as a fashion, make scientists as a superstar. Because based on my experience, how I got, to know so many people, how I got the good connections with, the whole world. I mean, the thing is, I, try to, build myself as a star. Treating myself as to be someone good at communication, good at promotion, all these things. I think for the scientists, yeah, professional, the scientists, researchers, many of them are very good person, very good research, very good result. They need something, try to push them on the stage to show very good. And then everyone knows that. I think this kind of iCANX talks is I try to promote science, the most beautiful science. Let all the audience know that, not only in a small field, a small world, let most of the people can know that. I try to get, push the scientists, not just stay in your lab. You can get on the stage, try to be more attractive, to be a star. This can create a trend, because many young generation is watching this. If they see all these lovely, scientists as stars, then many of young generation will jump in, right? Yeah. So we all have many more good candidates, and the world will be changed. Thank you, Paul.
Absolutely. And what can you tell us about this audience that we have? Do you know who's watching around the world?
Okay, that's a good question. I think
very early and colleagues, but that doesn't account for the very big numbers.
Yeah, we really have a good numbers on this. Now, yeah, we this time today we almost have 170 thousand online right now. So I think 1/3 of them should be scientists or young graduate school students or young scientists. Another, one third should be from industry or institutions, some researchers there. And some of them are public because I got a lot of emails. They say they follow this iCANX talks and learn English, study English.
That's just wonderful.
It is.
Well, maybe let's give each panel member a chance to say what it is that we've learned that we'd like to carry forward for what happens after we're past the pandemic. And Alice, let's start with you. We can go across the stage here.
Okay, iCANX is to try to connect the world and the universe. Get engaged with us.
Mm-hmm. And Qingquan, is there something that you see within the academy that you'd like to, that you'd like to bring forward when the world returns to more normal times?
Yes, we'll try our best to communicate the Chinese Academy to the rest and best of the world, and to build up the Chinese Academy of Sciences as a trustful and reliable and touchable or tangible organization to the rest of the world. Thank you.
Very good. AJ.
I think for me, the message is that this COVID experience has taught us new ways of science communication and also new ways of connecting with each other, which we had not really paid any attention. So for me, it's that experience which is very rich. And earlier I thought that I could never stay at home for more than a few days. But now we have learned how to do that too cheerfully and that too productively. This is something which I would have never imagined in my life. And I'm sure this is true for most of us. So this episode has taught us that we have infinite capacity to learn new things. And we should not underestimate ourselves. Actually, we can make virtue of almost anything now. So it has been such an experience. And science communication has improved actually. If you ask me, the connections which we have made and so on. So that is the message I get from this, and post-COVID, I'm sure some of it will continue.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right that it's pushed us to be creative in what we do and how we speak and who we reach. And certainly in some ways, communication's gotten so much better.
Exactly. I completely vibe with you. Yeah, absolutely.
Sherry?
Yeah, so I agree a lot with what Ajay just said. And I think about the opportunity that we will all have learned either in communicating our research or frankly in teaching about better ways for us to communicate knowledge so that we better communicate, find different ways which help people to learn and, anywhere from the fundamentals to the sort of closer, breaking, sort of research. But I think that we will learn better ways for people to understand, or what are better tools or better practices, and some of that will get sort of fleshed out. Some are good, some are not good, some of them are overwhelming. But I think that the opportunity for us to learn how to better communicate so that we find and share that knowledge. I think that's the most exciting part that I see as the positive opportunity from our experience that none of us will forget.
Yes. And Jagadish?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I think I echo the Cherry and Ajay's and other comments, and Alice and others. So by the way, it's so interesting that we have been getting some feedback. Some of our colleagues, those used to give terrible talks, but apparently now are giving a much better talks due to COVID because they are sending the recorded talks in advance, and then after recording, they're listening to themselves And then they realize that, oh my God, this talk is so not so good. So then they end up recording 3 or 4 times, and then they're satisfied and they're sending. So that's a positive message of coming out of COVID sort of thing. I think the most important one is the people, those who are in a disadvantaged position, those who could not have, do not have the travel grants to be able to go to conference and other things. That means they're missing out on the opportunities to learn and then aware of what's happening in the global scene. They're able to benefit from these virtual conferences. That's the biggest difference which we're able to create with this one. And then hopefully we'll continue that one. So thereby people will not be missing out because of the fact that they don't have money. I think that's the most important thing for us as a community. And I think, making a difference, and it doesn't matter which part of the world you're in, as long as you got access to internet, and then you'll be able to really aware of what's happening globally and listen to the top experts in the field.
Yes, and as you brought up, hopefully the professional societies will figure out how to do that. I know, for instance, the APS March meeting, while it must have lost a lot of money by not charging anything for registration, the attendance was, integral factors higher than normal. And so if we can figure out how to merge, real life with whatever we're going through now, to open things up for people who aren't able to travel everywhere all the time. I hope that connects us better.
So from the APS experience, one thing which we all learned is that we should not cancel the meetings when the people are already there at the venue. So we should really, if we are going to cancel the meeting, please give enough advance warning so that people are not wasting their money in terms of travel and accommodation and other things. And in fact, people had spend much more money to really go back to their homes as well. So that's not a smart way to do it anyway. But of course, they were in a difficult position, and I'm not criticizing them, but also all of us have to learn as well. So plan ahead and then make sure that if there are some uncertainties, go for virtual. And so thereby, means you're not really making people to come and then have the difficulty of traveling, and the pandemic is really spreading sort of.
And Samuel, actually, you may have better insight to this than many of us, because it's often been the case at the African MRS that people have been unable to come, or their travel has been delayed, and you've set up a very flexible system where we have the meeting, and sometimes talks are shifted around, but the attendees are very accommodating to that. Is there something that would be possible to merge that flexibility with what we're learning now about how to communicate, that you'd like to bring into the African MRS meetings?
Yeah, definitely. I think what we have learned from this experience is that in our planning, we have to incorporate the virtual component. If someone cannot come to the conference, then we should have, I think we tried that out, I think with I think there was 1 or 2 speakers at the last conference. But then I think at the time, in terms of people sort of like giving their buy-in to that, it was a bit of a challenge. But with what we've experienced now, the people have gone through virtual seminars and all. So I think now everyone is sort of used to it. So I think it's something that going forward, we will always have an option where we will not say that because we can't have the physical interaction, we can't do this, we postpone. We always have that as plan B. And I think going forward, this has sort of like helped us in terms of our development, because all of a sudden, I think I was just thinking about it that like Richard Feynman the other time when he said that there's plenty of room at the bottom. So all of a sudden, we can do anything, even in terms of the interactions. Like now, from the Secretariat office, we are now interacting with some other organizations that we never really thought about, that we could reach out to them and talk to them. So from the strategy point of view, it's actually helping out. And we were pushed to do this because we are now used to doing everything virtually. Our mindsets have now changed. So I think going forward, I think it's going to be very, very productive in terms of the way we do things, because we always have options. Because what you don't want when you want to do things, you don't have limited options. All of a sudden, we have unlimited options. So I think it's a very positive development for our activities.
Alice, let's go back to you for just a moment. I mean, one thing I'm not sure how many people know is you've developed this technology as we've gone forward, and there are also a tremendous number of people behind the scenes, and I'd be remiss in hosting today if I didn't thank Professor Aydoğan Özkan at UCLA for helping organize the panel, and Chuanjun Zhao, who's online here, one of my PhD students who help with the with the logistics and how we organize these. You chose to make all the iCANX lectures live rather than, as Jagadish mentioned, send in a recorded talk, and then often at those kind of meetings, there's a live Q&A for the speaker. Do you have some thoughts about live versus the pre-recorded talk?
Okay, that's what from my experience, because I'm going to teach in this spring, online. I try several kind of different types. First, I'll try to record all the voice of the videos and something. But later, when I use this, I don't feelings good, because the students, when they see all the videos, the recorded one or canned one, they now feel you're lively there. They not feel the connection there. So that time for myself is the same thing. I didn't feel good. And like Jagdish says that you look at the video, you always feel not good enough. Then you try one more time. Then actually you use a lot of time on this, recording. And then later you put all this recorded videos on there, the feelings also not good, because the people know that this was recorded. You may be not there. So that's bad experience. So later when I start this, I think I will stick on for the lively show. Because the lively show, they made some mistake, but the audience and yourself feelings, you are connected each other. Because at this moment, we are staying in the same, time zone. We are staying in the same meeting room. So everyone knows that all these are lively. So that's why I very, straight on this. I try, my best to keep everything on online, lively, not recorded, not can. Okay.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I think on that note, let me thank all our panelists. This was a very interesting discussion, and thank you so much for sharing your experiences and thoughts. It looks like there are commonalities across the entire world, and I hope that that we learn something from sharing those in how we manage both the next few months and the years to come when we find all of this behind us. So thank you, and particularly thank Alice and Aydoğan Özkan for organizing the panel, and all of our panelists for coming together and spending this time sharing your thoughts and wisdom and forecasts. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you also. Thanks, Alice,
Thank
and
you
also
very much.
entire team for thank you. It's been wonderful to participate and see all of you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you very much. Very well done.
Very
Very
good.
Thank you all.
And I'll
Nice to meet you.
talk
you,
to our
Paul.
editors in just a couple of hours ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Professor Alice Zhang of Beida. Everyone who comes to the iCANX talks knows her, and she'll give us a scientific talk today. Her title is From Alice to Alita, Self-Powered Smart Systems. Alice, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paul. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah, since April 17, iCANX was online. So that time, actually, I'm planning to give the first talk, because I'm not confident that time how many speakers I can get and which one will get online. So I'm planning to be the first one, but luckily I sent the email out. I got all the response immediately. So everyone was answer my email, try to speak, give talk on this. So yeah, my talk was saved there. So today is my chance to deliver a talk to everyone. So based on this special moment, I also want to talk about something for the future. That's my title for this talk is From Alice to Alita for this self-powered smart system. Why from Alice to Alita? So actually everyone knows that my name is Alice. Where it came from? It came from where? Here. All the dreams came from this Alice Wonderland book. When I was 12 or 11, I forgot that. I was in my, primary school. That time I was sticker with writing. So I'm writing a lot of, kind of small articles, all these things. I got my first gift and first prize. So it was from my writing. So they gave me one book. The book title was Alice in Wonderland. So I was certainly sticker with this tag, but the series, I love that kind of thinking. I love that Alice. So I think I want to be that Alice. I want to be that little girl, can, changing everything, can transfer everything, can do a lot of magic things. So that time, that's all the dreams start from. Oh, my name was from this story too. So Alice, yeah. So, but try to be Alice, try to, become someone with magic. So what are you going to do? You need to learn something. You need to develop something new. So later I will stick on this dream and I trained myself to be a professor. My major was in microelectronics because microelectronics make everything smaller and smaller. So that's why, that's where Alice in Wonderland did. It's from the very beginning. So that time I choose this major. So this major was really attractive, not just to make, these microchips. So not everyone was talking these chips, but my major was to make the chips more functional. You see this? That's not only very smaller, it's also very, very magic function. This can be movable and a very tiny scale. This scale was less than my 1 micron. So it named the micro electrical mechanical system, short as MEMS. So MEMS was one kind of field is to make everything smaller. So not only the size is smaller, also functional smaller. You look at inside this picture. This one was MEMS structure, MEMS devices. The bigger one was higher here of ounce. So you see that how tiny it is, but it's very functional. It can be sensors, can be actuators, can be calculators, can be resonators. It can, be built some very, very tiny, stuff and very functional stuff. Many, many things you see on the movie, yeah, it was made by, this kind of concept. So for maps, it was already made a lot of product, a lot of things. You use it everywhere, and we want to make miniature everything. And you also use all these, maps, sensors and devices and actuators everywhere. You think about your cell phone, how you can find, the right location, right place. It was because the sensors inside, actuators, gyroscope, and magic compounds. And about your computer, the same thing. And about your car, why your car became, very smart right now, can give you self-driving, automatic driving. Yeah, that's because many, many sensors in this car. Most of them are mapped sensors. And for, projector you use every day to deliver the lectures, you use that was the mirrors inside. You get a lot of kind of wearing things and a lot of kind of smart watch and your shoes and a lot of things was all made by that. That's in your daily life. No, more than your daily life, there were also a lot of things was made by maps. Was the component was maps. So that's my major. When I joined that field, I feel really like a dream come true because I can do a lot of things so interesting and to make it very very magic functions. But one day I'm thinking, is that possible? Can we use maps to make a future AI, artificial intelligence, the robots, or even more than the robots? Is that possible? We make things like this, like a dream to make something. Yeah, for sure, that's true. It can come true. One day I met this girl. So I know most of you have met this girl too. Was on the movie as Alita. That's super Alita. I love this girl, certainly. Alita was amazing. Alita can do everything. Alita was have super, power, magic, and everything, and the beauty. All in one, right? So when I analysis later, why he is such a superstar, super kind of AI in the future, what happened in a later? What kind of technology can make for a later? I think that a later has a three part, very important here. First is a later has superpower. Everyone knows that. Why a later can beat everyone? Why a later, can run more faster than everyone? It's because a later has a superpower, never, endless power. So for power is most important for all these kind of robots, artificial intelligence. That's the most master part is the power. If it can be superpower, never endless, that will be better. So first part is power. Power is most important for a later. Second is for the sensor. So why I say sensors, you see why a later was so smart. It's because a later can get all these informations from his surrounding, and he can feel that by his super suit. He wear these clothes, he wear this suit, he can feel all the whole world, many, many things, not only temperatures, humidity, and all this changing, around her. He can feel that. Then he can immediately get all these informations. This can be eventually, came to his, super brain and get the fast analysis and then, do the right thing, the right response. So if you want to be smart, you need sensitive to the whole world, to the surroundings. That means you need to have a very high sensitive sensors. So the second part for a later to be super smart is need has sensors. The third one is need to be a system. If it just has sensors, sensor is there, you need some super computing, it need the fast computing, and then it need to get into the actions. So once these go together, integrated together, you can respond in milliseconds, in even microseconds. That time, you really, getting super smart like a later. So in a later, we can see that the power, sensor, and system is the three keywords for her, super smart, this beautiful girl. So I'm thinking that I try to do this. So my lab was Alex One lab. So yeah, in my lab, I want to do something for all this kind of super smart stuff. So first thing we focus on is super powering. The second is active sensing. The third is a smart system. Today I share these three parts with you. So first, to talk about the superpower technology. As I mentioned that if you want to make things smart, if not what's artificial intelligence, if just some sensors or actuators or some components can work, long time, it need to be, for long-term power, stability. So here for later, for this artificial intelligence in the future, or even for some IoT nodes, in the remote place, it need to have, the self-power technology, because the self-power technology can have like this endless, power supply. So how can we make it? So for all this traditional, power supply or power source is really hard. So we need to think something new. What kind of things new? So one day I met someone. That's 8 years ago, was in Italy. We attending a conference, was a material congress. So I'm not a material person, but I was invited there to introduce my work for this kind of energy harvesting. So I met Professor Zhonglin Wang and a couple of people, and the lunchtime that Zhonglin sitting next to me asked me, Alice, what are you doing now? I said I was working on the power, because I try to, build up, something like self-powering technology. We can harvest the energy from our, daily life, our working, our running, and all these kind of things. So I taught Zhonglin that. Zhonglin said, oh, that's fantastic. That's really, really beautiful, field. I was done something there. I know, Zhonglin, you did a lot of work on nanotechnology. By that time, I was not interested in these nanowires. I say, okay, no, I'm not touching for this carbon nanotube nanowires. I'm a MEMS person. I try to make devices. Zhonglin say, no. I'm not talking about nanowires. I'm talking about new technology. It is very interesting. Then I sent his paper to me. The paper is this one. It's for triple electrical nano generator. It's published on his journal, Nano Energy. I mean, know that, and nano energy is one of the top journal in nano field too. That should be next to ACS Nano, but this nano energy is brand new because it just kicked off at 2012. So Zhonglin was the chief editor, and he accepted his own paper. So because his paper couldn't be accepted other place, they say that's pretty new concept. Triple electrical nano generator. For me, it's the same thing. I say I never heard about it. What's triple electrical nano generator? Are you kidding me? For this fraction can make some, energy? And I don't think so, but his paper was really attractive, and the output is pretty good, and the structure is very simple. That time I think, okay, yeah, why not go back to try? Let's see if it really can come out the very good kind of result like Zhonglin has. Then I came back to Beijing. I tried this triple electrical nano generator in my Alice One lab. So we use very simple, structure like this sandwich structure. We have the top electrode and the bottom electrode. There in between was a copper foils. Copper foils, that also electrode. This was a sandwich structure. When we typing on this, for the vibration, typing on this, we see that is that possible to get output? Okay, my God, that's interesting. We got really good output. We see that this was used in different patterns on the surface, flat surface, or nano surface, or even this micro nano durable structures. We changing different surface because I'm good at making this micro and nano structures. So I'm using this to double check all this kind of output. They say that it's really amazing. This triple electrical generator can get a big output, go to 450 volts, and the current is also very good, over 100 microampere. So that's amazing. Because I was doing this energy harvest for a longer time, using different approach, never achieved so high. So I say, okay, my God, this maybe work. Yeah, this maybe work. Then, yeah, I choose this structure, then continue that, try different structures. Then I modify our promote the structures. Later, I see that I got this very good result because you see this one, you see this chart or curve. They see that is 10 volts continuously, like the square wave. So what's that meaning? That means you can get this with like a stable, power supply. It can be, turn on majority of the MEMS components, because the majority, the MEMS components, the turn on voltage is about 2 volt. So now you have a 10 volt. Yeah, 10 volt, you can almost turn on all of that. So that time AC is continuous. The structure is very simple too. The working principle is very simple too. Then time I think, okay, this is really a approach, to solve the problem for this self-powering problem. So we keep continue on this. So we think that study all this, and we try a lot of structures. We see that for this triple generator, they have 3 kind of working models. It can be contact separation models, can be literature sliding models, can be one single electrode models, and also can be freestanding models. That means this was a freestanding models. So all these kind of things can generate the powers out. Yeah, let me introduce this interesting one. This was a single friction surface triple electrical generators. It put on the cell phone screen. You see that this cell phone screen with triple generators. We couldn't see that because it's totally transparent. It's attached on the cell phone screen. When you touch on this cell phone screen, every touch can generate the powers, and every touch can give you the output. You can see that from the the LEDs surroundings. So this was very interesting. That's 7 years ago we did this. So we got a demonstration from the lab. We see that once we touch this, the LEDs surrounding all this cell phone screens will be lighting up. I was really, really happy because I think later this can be one interesting field that can be used for a lot of kind of this touch screen devices or these products. I take this back to home. I have a 4th generation big home, so I take this back to home. I show my daddy because my daddy never know high tech, but it's just interesting. I say, Daddy, you see, that's our new product, my new research. You touch on this? Yeah, touch on this. See all the LEDs was lighting up. My daddy was really happy. Say that, Alice, give this to me because my cell phone now, I'm really worried about its power. So every day I'm really, worried about this. Now give me this. If I can charge myself. Say, Daddy, that time was really, really turning point for my research life because this was the first time I saw, my research was loved by common people, normal people. They never know about, high tech, but they know the technology was really helpful. So that time I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I should keep on going this direction because this direction can really help, can really work. So yeah, then we try to, enhance for the output, not only from the triple generators, also we hybridized with the piezo electrical generators. And these piezoelectric generators coming together with the triple generators can get even higher output and even more kind of application fields about this. And then we hybrid the triple electrical net generators with the magnetic one, because the magnetic one, everyone knows that it has high output in current, low voltage. So this triple electrical generator has the high voltage and low current, so they can combine together to have more good results and more good output that really works in many cases. And for this part, we think about, we develop a lot of triple electric generator, even these hybrid generators. They have a big advantage. What's that big advantage? The big advantage is, first, it has a very high output, not only the current, no voltage, also the current. So the output density is very good. Next is for the high efficiency. The efficiency can be go up to 80, so 80%. So that means it's really good, efficiency, much higher than other approach. The third one is for the soft materials, because for triple electrical generator, most of the material we use is polymers, is all the soft material. The soft material, that means the fabrication is pretty easier, and the material is pretty cheap. So that's really help and can be, mass production. And the other advantage is flexible. For, you use soft materials, is not silicon rigid, materials. So this soft material give you a lot of kind of flexibilities, and for the devices itself, and also for the applications. It also can be stretchable. Stretchable also give you a lot of, potential. The good part is for you can use on any place with a curvature, curvature surface, or any, special shapes applications. This can help you to, get allowed to use on that. And third one is it can be totally transparent. Totally transparent is another good thing for all this, like I show you the touch pin, the touch screen, and these kind of applications. One more thing is for the low cost. Everyone know that if you want to get your research can be real application, the cost is a big issue. If you can keep the cost in a lower, level, that means you have a big potential, to put on the market. So for this kind of triple electrical generator, it's really, really good in all this part. So now, a lot of people was follow up to do this triple electrical generators. Even in the whole world, there were almost more than 100 or 200 groups was working on this, many publications. It's just 8 years. So yeah, we are very happy. We be one of the pioneer group in this. Now my group will still have a lot of kind of output every year was for this, novel triple electrical generator, all these hybridization generators to solve the problem for the self-powering technology. And this part really give us a big kind of potential to work on this. Now we got some solution for the first part, for the first very important things for the self-powering technology. Then we go to the second is for the, sensing. Everyone knows that you need to have a super, sensitive system for you feeling the whole world. So how can you do that? This was really, really big questions. I know a lot of groups was working on this, and not maths person, even not, other kind of like artificial intelligence research, even, robots research. Everyone, was try to solve the problem for this, very high sensitive the sensors, and if they can, sense. Have a very high sensitive, they will be very useful. So we have these words, we try to be active sensing. What's meanings for active sensing? Active sensing is you can, sense outside the parameters, the changing, by yourself, not used to be a big power supply. Why we can do that? We say this because the self-sensing principle is based on, the same principle that's electrifications get on the surface. We think about that. Just now I say that when you touch the screen, right, you generate the charge on the surface. And the charge on the surface is different based on your electrode's location. So this electrode's location will have different kind of, numbers of charge. Then the output is different. So that time you can use this information on the electrodes, on the output electrodes, to detect and to sensing the output, to sensing the input. So that means you can be a sensor. So this, you don't need to get outside the power supply because you yourself was a power supply. So yeah, based on this principle, we can design different kind of type of the sensors. So firstly, you can use amplitude mode. Secondly, is the ratio mode, the frequency mode, the same thing. So amplitude is very easy to, understood. Just now, like I show you these principles. You can see see that different charge, on the electrodes, that's by quantity. So this by quantities can be used as amplitude mode to detect the output, the input, parameters. The second is for the ratio mode, because, many times you use electrification, these principles, they see that time by time, case by case, right? Not very kind of stable by the quantity for the amplitude. But if you think about that, if you use this ratio model, and the same charging, on different place is the same kind of, the same parameters, the same, kind of, the same situations. So if you compare all this output in the same time, so you get the ratio model, then easily you can get accuracy for the sensors. So this was you use for the ratio model. You normally design several as a parallel, as a array to detect one parameter, so you can get more good results and more accuracies. The third one is you can use a frequency model, because the frequency, for the electrification, detection is very important. You're normally working in the low frequency, but the different frequency, the output is different. So that time you use this frequency model you design on the surface, for the array, that will get a lot of kind of more information, and you can, get more accuracy, sensitivities on this. So we introduced several of the, smart sensors based on these different modes. So let's see. First, I will introduce you with the analog smart skin. You see, what's this analog smart skin? This paper was published on ACS Nano. Thanks, Paul. So this was very interesting, because this design, you see that this was a single, surface triple generators. So this was totally transparent. Put on the flower, you will never know that this was, got the generators there. So based on this, was on the surface. Once you have some object located or flow to the surface, you can detect the positions. The position was detected by this kind of 4 electrodes around them. So once the object, the input was get on this, then different electrodes get different, charge on that. The output will be different. So you compare with this 4 electrodes, and then you can find the location, exactly, the location. This can be very sensitive. So one more good thing, the best thing of this design is you don't need to have many electrodes. The 4 electrodes can cover big areas. These big areas can get very high, resolutions for your location for these kind of, detections. So we name this as analog smart skin. It's because it has very limited numbers of electrodes, can get high resolutions about the final results. So this was very nice work, very interesting. And based on this, we developing another one. Another one was, like one step more, because when finished that one, it looks very nice, and even very small, tiny false or tiny object is getting on this, we can detect it, and we can detect a very, kind of high resolution, to find the location, the precisions. So that time, one of my students is discussing with me, what we can do next. For me, I was kind of a person always thinking, something different. I see that, yeah, we've done that work. You look at that, it was very good. We make an analog one. If we want to get more magic, more fun on this technology, we should do something untouched, because that one was touchable. The contact on the surface, then you can get the signal. But if you do something like in the movie, in the very nice movie, you see a lot of things moving this object, by not touching on that. That's a non-contact one. Is that possible? We can do that. Then yeah, I think okay, this can be our further direction. I discuss with students. Yeah, then come back. We design the plans, and eventually we get out a plan was work. Yeah, a design was work. You see that this was very simple too. The structure is also very simple, but the material is getting more, different and getting more sensitive and getting more chargeable, and the electrode design is special, but this one really works. You see that this was shot, sorry, the movie doesn't work. This was put on the screen of the laptop, and you use your fingers this way, like with a little bit distance, you can see that you can play a game. So that means you can, moving the object, they can feel your movement, by this non-contact electric skins. This also don't need any power because yourself was a power, source. So this was self-powered non-contact e-skin, the number one in the world, and everyone love it. They want to use it. Yeah, so yeah, we finished this one years ago, and then we design many different kind of smart skins based on this kind of principle. Yeah, use different design. This was one we biomimic for this finger skin. We use that, everyone use the fingerprint. So the fingerprint has a lot of functions for the bio stuff, but also you can use this to design your smart skins. And this one was we designed that, with different patterns on that. Then it's very sensitive, to detect for this share screens and the slidings, releasings for on this, holding functions. And we design another, fingerprint is try to detect the different materials. Yeah, it's really can work for different materials, can detect the temperatures, materials, and all these functions. And we are moving forward to design something for 3 dimension. That the previous, examples always for 2D functions. Now, if we want to detect some information in 3D, how can we do that? This was this design is on this. So we developed a structure with 3 dimensions, but very thin devices. But it can sensitive to these 3 dimension, functions. And this also the single electric generators and use the frequency models. It can detect information based on, X, Y, Z, axis. And this time I show you some examples. Here is for this self-powered smart skin. It can allow the robot to feel the world around them. I like this word very much. This was one paper published that time. The media was, put some thing to promote this work. You see that it's really, yeah, we develop all these technologies we try to use to feel the world around them, not, just, patch on that, even can non-contact on them, they can feel that. They can, like a later, can feel, many different parameters or different changings around the world. Though we not, done a lot of things, to really get function like a later, but we moving on this way, like the super sensitive, non-contact models and all these kind of active sensing technologies based on this is working on. Now, for the advantage about this, technologies is the same. It's self-powered. That's the keywords because I don't need another battery, another wire, to power these kind of sensors. I use themselves as a power source, so it is active. So it can be detected multi-parameters, a lot of parameters, force, different kind of force, temperatures, strains, stress, all these, functions can be, sensitive on the same devices. And it's flexible, stretchable. Yeah, with flexible and stretchable, it also can, tag the the information outside. For this is also transparent. And for the transparent is more good for this wearable devices, all this kind of, stuff you can put on. Contact and non-contact. We try this approach. We try to get the things can feel, outside the things. So this was the second part I show you. I try to make a later more sensitive, and the technology for a late future later can be more sensitive and without a big batteries on that. And this was active sensing technology in my field. The last part in my talk is about smart systems. As we see that a later was a system, if a later just a sensors, it doesn't work, as a later. If a later, is not integrated with sensors, actuators, and even the chips together, it not show the whole functions and not to be a super smart, artificial intelligence. If we want to make, something like that, we must go to the system level. The system level is meaning we should integrate several different kind, devices together and to make the functions together. So smoothly. So this was a smart system. This picture shows that, we want to integrate, micro nano sensing system, harvesting energy harvesting system, and also the processing, signals and the displays on the same chip. And hopefully it can be, soft and flexible and maybe, elastic, transparent, and that's our goal. So we working on this for several years. We get some kind of step achievement. So the first is we try to make a system. We must make it a long-term, stability. Can working on that. So the first thing is we need to, design from the triple generator, the energy harvest, to store the energy in the storage. In the storage, then it can be a self-charging power unit. So this must be done for a system. So we working on this approach. We try to, harvest the energy and get the power management, get the energy storage. So the most important part is to, design a high efficiency energy storage. It's a supercapacitor. So we design this supercapacitor is based on the, flexible materials, and we try to make the system flexible. So this one structure was not that complicated, but the materials is different. Yeah, we use flexible materials, and eventually we made these devices, and you see that the output is pretty good, and it can be, storing the energy on that, and this make it like a power unit. Because based on this materials, supercapacitor, we can, integrate it, the triple electrical generator and the supercapacitor together to be one devices. You see this one sandwich devices is different from the previous one, but this one already mixed, integrated with the super capacitor together, and it's almost transparent. And this can be one power unit for long-term, stability, the system level applications. So this totally, like as a polymer-based, power unit. It can be utilized in many different environments. And this was a power unit. The second is we try to integrate active sensing and supercapacitor and the generator together. You see this structure was integrated, these three things. Just now I already introduced you for the triple electrical generator and supercapacitors. Then, yeah, we input another side in the materials was this this kind of parallel substrate and with structures like this. So it was array. So it can be sensed for the pressures, for the strains, and all these kind of parameters on that. So this can be a self-powered sensor system, and also can be used for longer time. Why? Because it has a supercapacitor. You can store the energy automatically. So this was a very good demonstration for we use these simple structures to get these three functions on one chip. And then we use different materials. Yeah, as I say that, we try to make something very, very useful. Yeah, we think about artificial intelligence or robots, or even like later, later you need to wear some like things like clothes, use fibers. So that time we developed this fiber-based power unit. The materials is different, but the principle is the same. So use this fiber-based, materials. We make it like a clothes. It can integrate with your normal clothes, and it can get a lot, functions during your daily works, during your daily life. So this was very useful and very helpful. It's can washable too, and this power unit can work even for longer time, many days. So it very stable. And so there in between, yeah, there are a lot of homework you need to be done. So first, you want to be long-term stability. You need to get the high-efficient energy management. So this was the circuit design. So yeah, one of my students was very smart. He was good at design all these circuits. He got function to analysis for the triple electrical generator, and integrate with all this circuit with the supercapacitors. You can store the energy. So this he uses functions, and in different frequency, it can be automatically charging itself, can get high efficiency energy, energy efficiency stored in this system. So that time this work was remarkable, because this work was enhanced the efficiency, many times much higher than others. So this circuit was working very well. It's very popular in my group. Many of devices will use this management, circuit to do the following works. And based on this, we developed a demonstration. The demonstration was a smart bracelet. So this smart bracelet, you can see that this self-charging for sure. It has the triple electrical part was made by the FPCB process, and it also have the supercapacitors to store the energy. Has just now the management circuit was integrated together, and this also integrate several devices, sensors for the temperature sensor, humidity sensor, pressure sensors. And it has a display. This was a simple, LCD display, because it's low power, so can give you some message on that. So this simple, bracelets, the magic part here is you don't need any battery, because it can, when you wear these bracelets, you every moment will generate the power to power this one. So this was very interesting one. I think in the future, many of you will get rid of the batteries, the wires, and the recharger or rechargers. So we working on that, and this was the first demonstration for the totally self-charging smart bracelets. And then we collaborated with Professor Wei Gao in Caltech to design something with a lab on skin. Professor Wei Gao's lab was very famous for the sweat sensors. The analysis of the sweat, for many biomarkers related with healthy and some kind of disease. So for my group, one of my students, Yu Song, was working there. So I designed a system level is using the triple electrical generators to generate the powers to power all this system to make it lab on skin. So during your runnings and all these things to detect the sweat, you don't need anywhere. So you don't need any batteries. You can automatically send a signal out. So this was really works. The paper was published on Natural Biotech last year, and this year was the Science Advances this year. So we named that as a lab on skin. So because later, you can wear this everywhere, and you can use that, to detect your function, your healthy, parameters, and also you can analyze your sweat. And this lab on skin will be very helpful for the healthy detection, also for the medical applications. And today I'm introduce this was the research in my Alice One lab. Was firstly is the self-powering technology. You use the energy harvesting is based on your own actively daily active running and working and all this vibration. It can generate the powers by the triple electrical generator, and the hybrid with others can be get a very high efficiency, as energy harvester. And the second, we use triple electrification, principle to get sensing many parameters, many different, parameters around us to make the robots more kind of smart. Yeah, it can feel the whole world. I gave you some examples on this. Lastly is we try to integrate, triple electrical, the energy harvesters, the power, management, and the storage, and also together with these sensors, all is displays to show you a smart system. The demonstration on this. Our target is eventually we can make Alice, to a later. So as I say that Alice was a real person, but not that superpowers. So a later was a future, artificial intelligence combined with all these kind of high tech and all these human beings, activities. So if we want to, being in the future to helpful to be a leader, even develop some technology used for building, future leader, we need to do a lot of things. That's just where beginning. We start this self-power technology with us, active sensing technology. We start to build up, the smart system. That's still a long way, a long way. So Alice now is in Earth. Later was in the universe. So we need to working on that. There are a lot of things to do. I think from this moment, it's kind of looking for the future. So we need to, get on this trend. There are a lot of things you can do for this, not only for energy part, for the sensor part, for all these kind of small devices, low power consumption devices. You also need to learn more about this new technology, like that maybe we are not very familiar with artificial intelligence, big data, and neural, interface, and all these kind of new technologies. We need, to learn that and to collaborate with different, peoples. And eventually, I think, in near future, not far, we can, have a real later. That's from the very beginning as from Alice to later. So yeah, that's my group. That's Alice One Lab. So not a lot of people, so about 10 members on that. In fact, the PhD student and myself. So every day we have this dream. We want to make a later even achieve higher. So thank you very much. That's all on my talk. I'm waiting for your questions. Paul, yeah, finish that. Paul, I could hear you.
There we are. Thank you so much, Alice. Let me, that was just a terrific talk and well worth waiting.
Okay, yeah, I try to make some fun.
Let's move on to our question. Oh, we're way behind here. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no problem.
There, that's the right screen. Yeah. We have several questions.
Sure.
The first is from an undergraduate at Huazhang University of Science Technology. May I ask Professor Zhang, what will it take to improve the reliability of intelligent sensor systems to move them from the laboratory stage and research to commercialization? Thank you.
Okay, that's a very great question. Actually, everyone in the field was working on not only the sensors, in all the field, everyone wants to make, their research into the market. They need to be long-term stability or reliability on that. So I think, this was different work, not different work, but different, responsibility. Like in the university, the professors, maybe they always think something ahead. right? Some advantage the technology to try to initiate something new, some new devices, some new principles, something. So majority of these professors not focus on the reliability, because long-term reliability should be, work in the industry, for the mass production, for all these kind of things. So I think, we try to solve this problem is need collaboration. In the university level, in the research lab, we focus on this high, advantage technology, on this high tech, on something new. Then we can transfer the technology, to the industry who is interested to push into the market for the commercialization. That part you can put more, efforts to on the stability, reliability, and to do this. I think that's kind of, calibration work.
Very nice. The next question is, Professor Zhang, I'd like to ask how to form a reliable adhesion interface layer to attach the flexible sensor to the human body and to have biological compatibility. Also, how can we improve its dynamic tolerance?
Okay, that's really interesting. Actually, a lot of people see that kind of applications or the demonstrations to put on the, all these kind of wearable, the chips or devices, or even, some patch on your skin. That time you're asking, what kind of magic you have to get all these kind of flexible sensors on the human body. I tell you, there are no magic. Normally they use glue. Normally they use glue.
Is there a way to improve that or do something better, do you think?
Yeah, I think that for sure, you can, do something, especially you can, enhance the surface, and you can get some surface treatment for that. But I tell you, the most traditional way use the biocompatible glue is, one good solution. Yeah, but for sure, you also, can do something on the surface. If you don't want to, for the long term kind of working on the for the long term, function on the here on the skin. So that time maybe you don't need glue. You just modify, the surface. The surface modification. There are many ways for plasma trainings, for different patterns, for all these kind of different things. That's not, very difficult, but you need to think about the applications and also for how long time you want to use for this. Yeah, if you want to use for even longer time, that's need some special things. If you not to use for really longer time, for normally all this was the one use, application. That time is, it's pretty easy. Okay.
And do you match mechanical properties in the?
Yeah, that's a very interesting questions. Actually, for all these kind of wearable devices, we care more about the functions. For the mechanical, properties of these devices, it's one major, factors on that. So normally we measure that during the design or during the fabrications. But make sure that all these kind of, mechanical property will be strong enough, right? Not to quite, not to wear weak or something. So that's during the, design and the measurement you already done.
That may be something to talk to Chuan-Chen, who's helping us, has interest in that, along with our colleague here at UCLA, Jibing Pei.
Yes, Chuan-Chen now is working on this, direction too.
Yes. So the third question is, hello, Professor Zhang. I'm interested in your research on self-powered smart systems. With the rapid development of 5G networks, the Internet of Things, and other related fields, what are the major problems and challenges for self-powered smart systems developed in the laboratory?
Okay, super. So actually, most of people talking about this self-powered smart system are always related with, Internet of Things, all these, mass kind of applications. That's really, really good because in Internet of Things or 5G networks, normally many place application in the very remote, the places or some place environment not very easy for the people to maintain or operation. So that time means they need the sensors of the system to be self-powered, or even not to be charged often, or not to be changing the batteries. So this was a big challenge for all these self-powered smart systems because we all know that in all these places there are kind of different kind of several things. Normally the environment is not that friendly, so you need to get good packaging on all these sensors, all these devices. That big packaging of these sensing or devices for this mechanical energy harvesting. So that time is normally you lose some efficiency because all the packaging really cost some volume or some things get not make sure you can harvest the mechanical vibrations outside as always. But if you use this, this kind of solar harvesters, so that time you did really affected by this day and night. Yeah, that's also not a totally solution. So for this self-powered smart system, use all these things. Normally we think about the most reasonable or reliable way is we have the harvest in the system, but we also have the storage. Even the batteries can be helpful. So because you harvested the energy, then you store the energy into supercapacitor, even into the batteries. That means you can have endless the power supply. So this is one solution, but this also one challenge because how can you make this and system work very well, and how can you make as efficiency, and even you even not one principle or one kind of devices can work. If you need several, like you need the solar integrated with triple generators or even magnetic generators, integrated with others. How can you got all these system, all these different devices, can be help each other, not compensate each other. So that's from the design, the structures and the principles that time you need put more efforts, and you still need to talk about this case by case. Why? Because a different application, a different environment, different requirements, different limitations. That time you need really, to talk with the designer or the engineering, where they want to use that and what's the requirement for the environment. Then you can have a most optimized design and you can have a good results. Normally in the lab, it's the same thing. You must focus on all these kind of different principle, narrow, structures, designs. You're not fighting exactly with the application. The real application. So from the lab, that time it's really hard to get very good results and then eventually be used. So I suggest if you really want to solve the problem, you need to working together with the product designer. Okay, Paul. Bye.
Very good. Yeah, the next question is, thanks for your wonderful talk. There's been much excellent work in soft electronics recently. From your point of view, how can we keep making rapid progress, doing great work and novel research as this field gradually saturates?
Okay, that's a question maybe, Paul, you can answer that because nanotechnology for many years. So, but you still keep on going for so many, interesting work and leading works. So I think in every field is that. So Paul, maybe you can introduce your secret first.
Well, I guess I might dispute the premise that the field is saturating. I think in sensors, there's so much that we'd like to be able to do still. and we haven't, as some of the other questions and your talk pointed out, there's still a long way to go. So I think we've done some demonstrations, but as we heard from Wei Gao and from you, and we're going to hear in a couple of weeks in terms of chemical neurosensors from Professor Ann Andrews. There's a lot that we'd like to be able to measure. Once we get our foot in the door and we're able to do more, that's going to open up more questions. And there's very great complexity in our function, and thus in the sensors and sensor arrays that we would like to have, we're going to need greater and greater complexity, both in the data and in how we treat it. So I think we're a long way from saturation. I would say we're really just getting started on the climb to get useful information out.
Exactly. Yeah, Paul, I like your answers because I have the same feelings, Many people think, okay, this field almost failed, right? A lot of people was there, a lot of things was done mature. It's already mature, no new things. So I'm a newcomer. So I looks like I have a not a lot of room, not space for me. I say that's not true. Yeah, I remember that Yan Li, my colleague, is also your colleague in SES Nano. And her, during her lecture, the question part, I also say that it will stay with, Kappa nanotube for many, many years. Even many people would move out. But Yan says that, Professor Li says that there was still a lot of things I feel that I can, figure out. I can, continuously get something, done. So yeah, even for a lot of field, you feel that's very traditional, very old field. You see that that's still a lot of new things you can develop. For soft electronics, I think is really not mature enough as at the very beginning, because soft electronics, that's less than 10 years, right? Yeah, less than 10 years getting to the stage. So even you got rid of where many publications, that's also a lot more things, that was waiting for you. What's a lot of new things, can do. So I think, why I put the name as from Alice to Alita is the same feeling. Now you see that Alice, as a human being, but our future is Alita, right? Our future exactly is a leader. You compare the human being, real human being, and the artificial intelligence together. So the technology, even not technology, some mental, development, you also need to be done there. So I think soft electronics is a field, just start. So don't worry about it. There are a lot of things. You continue to ask yourself questions. You continue to ask yourself what you can do. What's your dream? What you want to really, contribute. Then you can find your field. Okay.
Very good. And I'll say, stay tuned for the 6th question related to what you just said.
Okay.
But first, we'll move to number 5. Since there is no proposal to standardize manufacturing processes for self-powered electronic devices, it seems impossible to achieve consistency in performance between different devices and different batches. Do you have ideas on how to solve this problem?
Okay, this question must be asked from microelectronics, students. Because why? That's more than 10 years ago. We always ask this because we are in microelectronics. Everything was very standardized, right? Yeah, they have these foundries, all this process was standardized. Everything was mass production, was bench, fabrication. They see that, if you don't follow this trend, that looks like, you will never get to achieve higher, like in microelectronics, I think the people always think this way. But I tell you the answers is not. You think about all this, whole world, not only, the microfabrication, all this standard process was working, 3D printing was working, right? And many other different fabrication technology was still working there. For the soft electronics fabrication, think about now how many printing process you can use. The soft lithography, all this kind of fabrication, all can work. So yeah, don't worry about standardized manufacturing, process. Once you have the good, application, good market target, they will easily to find the fabrication, the problem to be solved. Because that time you need, the mass productions, that time you will be established that process. So I think, soft electronics, the research is just started. The market is and developing, right? And developing, still far way to go. So no standard process that's very obvious, kind of step here. So yeah, once we have a very sure the big market, the standard process will become out and solve the problem automatically. Don't worry about it. It's on the way.
I think related to the last question, things are still changing so rapidly. You don't want to solidify some standards before you've optimized what the devices can do. So, and then I think you'll like the final question, which is, what do you think are the major technical difficulties preventing us from being able to get along with Alita?
Okay, God. How hard to answer these questions? Yeah. So in my dream, if we really want to make a leader, I think the thing is we need to think about, how to hybrid, the technology from this bio stuff into this kind of, how to say that, like a feeling the whole world, right? Right? I use that word, the technology can feel the whole world. So once we develop so many, sensors, actuators, and to try to build them, but the thing is that is the sensor was feeling the whole world and then can transfer the feelings to a later. I think that's a major battle. So that the major battle here. Now we got so many big data, but we didn't get into that feeling part. We didn't translate all this data to this kind of, the brain thinking. So we need transfer all this big data, what we have, what we can, harvest from the whole world, and to translate that into brain thinking. And then this brain thinking can automatically, drive the actuators, many things to happen. I think this was a big battle. Yeah, from the solid world to this mental spirit.
Very good. Well, this would normally be the time that I walk across the stage to you and hand you the iCANX plaque and thank you for your talk, but virtually let me thank you not only for the talk and organizing the panel, but for putting this whole program together and bringing together the world of science and bringing science to the public and thinking about what it is we want to carry forward to the future from this time. It's really been one of the great positives and blessings is to have these weekly talks and opportunities to see the world's leading scientists and to interact with them. So on behalf of the millions of people who've tuned in to the iCANX lectures over the last 30 weeks, thank you so much for everything you've done, and thank you to those out there who've been here along with us. I'll point out that next week we have a group of talks on emerging technologies for Internet of Things applications. You can see that we've had just a phenomenal group of speakers through these 30 weeks. And also coming up on November 20th, we'll have the intersection of nanoscience and neuroscience with Professor Ann Andrews and Professor Ed Boyden of UCLA and MIT, respectively, from Beijing, from Los Angeles, from around the world. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week and each Friday. And thank you again to our panel, to Chuanjun Zhao for helping us, and for Professor Aiduan Ozkan as well for helping to organize the panel today. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for your waking up at 4 p.m. 4 a.m. Thank you.